As we just coming from Yutes Kislev, where we celebrated Alter Rebbe's release from prison, 53 days corresponding to the 53 chapters of Tanya that Alter Rebbe published, I want to share with you a story about the miracle of the printing of a Tanya. And the story is told by Rabbi Yehuda Ezrachian, who was the Rav Roshi, the chief rabbi of Iran, in 1978. But I'm going to read to you the story in his words. And this is what he writes. About a year before the revolution, two shluchim of the Rebbe came to Iran in order to print the Tanya. The community decided to print many copies of the Tanya in order to distribute them to the Jews of the community. The Tanya was sent to the printer, but there were delays and it took a long time. In the meantime, Khomeini overthrew the Shah, and eventually when the work of the community resumed, and I was responsible for the community's spiritual needs, I tried to get all the copies from the Tanya from the printer in order to bring them to the community's library. There, in the large hall of the library, they were stored in the meantime in messy piles. At that time, a new law was announced by the new government of Khomeini's government, and they called that law cleansing. The new law stated that every Iranian citizen and all public organizations had 30 days in which to burn all documents, papers, books they owned containing the Shah's royal emblem, his name, and any remembrance of the Shah. The law stated that after 30 days, anybody who possessed anything with one of these symbols would be severely punished. And if it was determined that he purposely did not destroy these symbols, he would be executed. We, the community, faced a tremendous dilemma, a huge problem. With archives that was over 100 years old. Most of the papers, documents, and books all had the royal crown on them, as well as the name of the Shah and his government. For example, we had many special gold coins that the killer produced in honor of the king's coronation and the celebration of 2,500 years since the coronation of Koresh. One side of the coin was a menorah, and the other side was either Koresh or the royal crown. It was very hard for us to accept the cleansing of the entire library and the huge archive, considering its phenomenal value. We had no choice. Nevertheless, there was clearly no way we could comply with the law in such a short time. At the end of the month, before we had finished the work, the secretary came into my office and said, 2 government officials, inspectors, are here to meet with you and to inspect if we have followed the cleansing law. I was terrified. I knew that I was finished and that the entire Jewish community was in grave danger. I said vidui, shema, and prepared myself for what I knew was coming. When the inspectors entered my office, I was frightened to death. And then I took them to the library. The first thing they saw were piles of books that were thrown all over the place. One of the inspectors bent down, took one of these books, which by divine providence was the Tanya. He asked me what it was. I told him about the Baal Tanya, about the Chabad movement, about the Baal Shem Tov, about Chassidus. And I told him that this book is one of the movement's primary work. He opened the book and asked me to explain to him what it said on the page that he just happened to open. It was the first page of Shar HaYichud VeEmunah. I translated and explained the entire page from beginning to end. Now, this page, the Alter Rebbe discusses the whole concept of belief in the one God, in the presence of God all over, and the importance of understanding and knowing God. When I was done, the inspector closed it, kissed it, and said, In a place with books like these, and with such a person in charge, there is no need for anything else. Rabbi Zachariah concludes, when I had recovered from this pleasant shock, I said to him before he left that we would be extremely happy if he would sign our guest book. The Rebbe's foresight, 2 years before the revolution, printing Tanya will save their lives. Friends, printing Tanya, learning Tanya saves our spiritual lives. And may we celebrate the Shabbos with the author of the Tanya, with the Bala Tanya in the Beis HaMikdash, obviously with the imminent coming of Mashiach. Good Shabbos.